Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jermaine Morgan TV. In today's episode, we're going to talk about building your overall confidence as a player and using your ears. So stay tuned. Jam session. Alright guys, and welcome back. First things first, yes, this is a 6-string bass. This is the Serene bass built by Scott Serene for Serene Basses. I will put that link in the description below if you want to know a little bit about these basses. This is my latest addition to my family, so if you guys have been seeing me playing these in the lives, you already know what's going on. But if you're new to the channel, I'm generally playing Warrior basses, but this is one of the newest members of my family, and I'm really excited to be playing this bass. The particular song that you heard me playing just a minute ago, funny story about this particular bass. I played my bass, the song that you heard is from my album Life called Yana's Groove. And good thing, there's also a backing track available for this track as well. I'll add all of that stuff in the description, so please be sure to check that at the end of this video. But this bass is the other bass that was used in the song. Many of you know my Warrior 6-string bass that I use commonly for a lot of my solo stuff, but this is the other bass played by my friend Nate Holloman. He was playing the other bass in that song, and if you've heard that song before, this is the other bass in the song. So I thought it'd be cool to play this bass on today's lesson and just kind of let you guys hear it up close and in person. So anyway, without further ado, jumping into the lesson, the song that I'm playing is in the key of E, by the way, the bass player's favorite groove key. So Nate and I just had a lot of fun just playing this song. I wanted to feature him on this record. Anybody that knows Nate, he was on Jermaine Morgan TV like season 2. We did an interview, and I told you guys about how that was a mentor to me when I was growing up and kind of learning a little bit more about the bass. Well, not necessarily growing up, but when I was younger, a younger musician, learning a little bit more. I gleaned a lot from Nate, and so I wanted to feature him on my record a few years back when I did this particular record. So one of the things that I noticed right off the bat that Nate did leading into his solo is he started out with this particular idea of this Dorian scale, this E Dorian idea. You know, normally E Dorian is, but he took this approach where he arpeggiated, and it was very melodic, the approach that he took to it. So, oh yeah, and by the way, the stuff that you heard me playing at the beginning, I'm actually transcribing. We've been talking in this series over the last few weeks how to apply this stuff, and one of the things I've been telling you guys about is transcribing, as we talked about in the last lesson that I put up. Taking the things we're actually transcribing and applying them to other things. Now, in this particular song, this was kind of challenging for me because number one, I recorded this in like 2014, so it's been a while since I actually played my actual solo verbatim in the song, but I've never attempted to play Nate's solo in the song, so I had to learn his part and my part when I was transcribing. So one of the things, again, I noticed that he started his solo off with this very melodic Dorian idea, as opposed to playing the really, what most bass players, their go-to would be something minor pentatonic. We would go straight E minor pentatonic, the average bass player, but he took a different approach. And the thing that I like about his approach was the way he used this melodic thing and very simple movements to get him down to the first thing to make a point. One of the things I notice about a lot of bass players when they take solos, it's a lot of random information instead of having a conversation. If you heard throughout the song, we're going back and forth. Of course, I'm playing everything as I was playing at the beginning of the song, but how it was initially recorded, it was like call and response. As I said, Nate had his where he opened up with the Dorian idea. And then I came. And then Nate came back with that. And I could keep going on and on with it, but what you get is there's a conversation that's happening amongst us, like as musicians, but the conversation would be equivalent to us sitting in the room talking to one another. One person says one thing and another person says another thing, and it's not always based off the root of the conversation. We don't start, like when we talk sentences, and if we were talking in keys, we wouldn't say E. Hey, Nate, I think this is a good idea if you were to play this, and Nate wouldn't respond to me, E. Yes, Jermaine. It's like we wouldn't start with the note that we're in. We would start wherever the other person leave off in the conversation, or we would respond based on how we feel about the last statement that they made, and it would go back and forth in conversation. One of the things that helps you to get to that point in music are three things that I'm going to talk about as far as building your confidence as a player. That's planning, execution, and repetition. Now, as we've been listening to all of this different music, these are three things that, to me, that are important as you begin to transcribe and all this kind of stuff. You first have to make a plan to do it. Find a song. You can take this song. I challenge you to take this song this week and start working on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen to what's going on in the song. Even if you're a beginner and you can't do nothing but start with the bass line. Start with that. It's just grooving on the E. Like, work on your rhythm. Make a plan to work on something. So the first thing out of the gate, before you can even get to all of the extra stuff, is you have to plan something. You actually have to plan to do something. Plan to pick your instrument up and actually practice. So once you first plan, now you start executing whatever that plan was. So I had a plan for this particular lesson that I was going to transcribe this song. I was going to, transcribe both solos. I knew my solo kinda, but I really didn't know Nate's solo at all. So I had to make the plan to sit down and actually, go through and figure out exactly what it is he was doing. Now, it was a tedious process for me, as I showed you my process before, where I'm having to play a couple of seconds of it, stop, go back and play it over again. Now, that's the execution part of it that most people don't like to do. Most people don't like to go through the execution process because, one, it takes too long. It's too time consuming, and we're looking for answers and that kind of thing. You can think of a skill that you've been working on, maybe when you were a kid or as an adult, a new job you tried. When you first tried it, it was difficult. You didn't get it right away. But the more you did it, the more repetitious it became for you, the more confidence that you built in doing that thing. And that's a way that you begin to build confidence, by initially executing the thing that you said you were going to do. So it's basically you keeping your word to yourself. Now, the other thing that helps to solidify that confidence is the repetition. So once you start listening to stuff, once you start learning music, and you do it over and over again, and I would even encourage you guys, this is another thing, I would even encourage you guys to be careful how you learn songs. One of the cool features about YouTube is that you can slow things down and pick out the notes, which is very cool. I think that's a really cool feature because some people play blazing fast stuff and it's almost impossible to make out what they're doing. And so you kind of may need that help to slow it down just a little bit to figure it out or to get the chords or whatever the case may be. I'm not knocking that at all, but you have to be careful in your learning that you don't slow it down too much, because what that does, that triggers your brain that says, well, everything I learned, I have to slow it down before I get it. And that's not necessarily true. There's a way that you can make your brain slow it down without you physically slowing it down. And you can make your brain pick out notes. And that happens through execution and repetition, doing it over and over and over and over again. And like you get into the habit of listening to stuff. So now your response when you hear something that seems completely out of your comfort zone is like, oh man, I think I can do that. You know, you hear something and it might be a little difficult when you're hearing it, trying to make it out, but it's like, okay, I think I can do that. If it's within, of course, if it's within reason. Or stuff might be completely out of your lane. But there are things within reason that you can do. And I encourage you to push the envelope, push the boundaries to see what's possible for you. And as you do that, as you execute and do that repetitiously, it begins to build your confidence up as a player, because what you need to do is remind your own mind, because it's a war ground of your mind. Getting out with people, playing and all that kind of stuff, it begins to build that confidence that you need to execute. So anyway, guys, these are just a few tips, 3 things that I wanted to leave with you today in terms of building your overall confidence as a player. If you want to hang around as we dig a little bit more into kind of exploring a little bit more what was happening melodically with these solos, I encourage you to join the monthly membership by simply following the link in the description and signing up today. Oh yeah, and be sure to comment below and let me know if this was helpful to you. And if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe and turn on my bell notifications. And I will see you guys on next week. I'm out.